Hello.
Hi, is this Bobby?
Yes, yes.
All right, well, let me do the official introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very, very honored to welcome our featured guest for this evening. He is a rock and roll legend, a teen idol, and an author, and he's joining us to talk about his career and his new book, Bobby Rydell, Teen Idol on the Rocks, A Tale of Second Chances. We're very excited to welcome Bobby Rydell to the show. You're on the air with Terry and Tiffany. Welcome.
Well, thank you ever so much. Pleasure.
Well, you definitely have a reputation that precedes you not only as performer, but somebody that contributes to this radio show. Ghosty of WFDU, I guess he interviewed you also, and he said you are the nicest guy, and I've heard this from everyone.
Thank you ever so much, Terry. That's a very nice compliment.
Well, you sound fantastic. How you feeling?
I feel fantastic. I feel really wonderful. Matter of fact, earlier today, here in right outside of my home, we went to a book signing, and it was absolutely tremendous. It was really great.
Wow.
Now, I mean, over your career, Bobby, you've sold over 25 million records. So what is it like now going to these book signings, meeting these fans, and what kind of fans come up and meet you and say hi? I mean, is it the original fans? Is it baby boomers? Is it their kids, their grandkids? I mean, what kind of people come up and say hi?
It's really, Tiffany, a mixed variety of people who come up. Moms and dads come up with their children, and the children are aware of me because I guess the moms and dads, they have the old 45s, and it's kind of like new music to all of them. And when we do the book signings, we normally have a Q&A prior to signing the books, and I just invite the audience to ask just about any kind of question they want to. And like the book, I'm brutally honest in all of the answers, and it's really a great one-on-one with all of the fans.
Well, the title's very interesting. Bobby Rydell, Teen Idol on the Rocks, A Tale of Second Chances. Yeah, it almost sounded like you were some kind of a badass or something. I know you're the greatest kind of guy, but I guess it refers to some bad luck in your life. Is that right?
Well, I guess if not really bad luck so much, Terry. It all goes back to my first wife, Camille. We were married for 36 years, and she passed away in 2003 via breast cancer. And when she left, my life, it was very, very hard for me. I mean, there was but nobody to lay with, nobody to talk to, smile with, cry with, joke with, laugh with, just relating different stories. And unfortunately, when she did leave and pass away, I turned to the bottle, which basically is the title of the book, Bobby Rydell, Teen Idol on the Rocks. And I became a total drinker and an alcoholic, which back in 2012, led to a double transplant where I had to have a new liver and a new kidney put in me.
Wow. And you're definitely an advocate for kidney transplant. I found that out.
Organ donating,
Organ donating. It's a great thing. We've had other singers on that went through the same thing, and I tell you, it really is a wonderful thing that they've really come on to the science well, to where people have lived long after they thought they were going to because of it. And I'm so happy you're with us. You're such a legend.
And one of the stories.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah. One of the stories that I read that I thought was interesting is tell our listeners about the journey of recovery, because after going through a double operation like that and recovery, I understand you were worried about if and when you were going to get your voice back, right?
Oh, absolutely. Not only, if to get the voice back or to be able to perform again, because I was, the surgery was, better than 20 hours in the OR, all kinds of tubes in you, down your throat, and my recovery was kind of amazing. I mean, I was only in the hospital for 10 days after my double transplant.
Wow.
And, and my wife now, Linda, she was a great she is and was a great caregiver, and, just nursed me back, to health. And I believe it was something like 6 months after my surgery, I had my first appearance in Las Vegas. And I was kind of nervous, I didn't know what the hell was going to happen. But prior to doing the show in Las Vegas, a friend of mine had a big band here in Philadelphia, and he was my next door neighbor. His name Lou Ciosi. He was basically a barber, but a trumpet player as well. And he put this band together, and I called him. I said, Lou, you think you can get the band together? I'd like to try and do my show prior to, going to Las Vegas. And we went to a place called the Clef Club here in Philadelphia, which is a jazz club. And it was just, closed doors and just rehearsal with the band, my drummer who flew in from Chicago. And we did the whole show. We did like an hour and change, and I started singing, and my God, things just started coming out, and it just surprised the hell out of me, But, I mean, all of the guys, that I've known for years in the band, I mean, you could see smiles on their face, just knowing that, wow, Bobby's back, And prior to doing the big band thing, I had four of my best friends come over the house, piano, bass, drums, guitar. And I just wanted to, just sing songs off the top of my head, like I've Got You Under My Skin, The Shadow of Your Smile, of course, some of the hit records. And the bass player, Craig Thomas, and it was like kind of okay, things were coming out, but it wasn't really strong. And I turned to Craig Thomas. I said, Craig, tell me the truth, man. I said, what do I sound like? And Craig's a marvelous musician, a really fine bass player. He just turned and he said, sounds like Bobby Rydell to me, man. So, I was so happy, to be able to get back up on stage and do what I've done for God knows, practically all of my life. So I'm a very, very blessed person. I mean, the way things happened was a complete miracle.
Well, I swear to God, I don't know if it's the Philly cheesesteaks or what, but you boys out there in Philadelphia, you've got chutzpah, as they must say. What about?
Matter of fact, when I'm home every Wednesday night, me being Italian, my real name Rydell. There's like 8 or 10 of us guys that we go to a different Italian restaurant every Wednesday,
Right.
And it's not the food that counts so much, it's the camaraderie that, we just,
Absolutely.
That tell stories and laugh and all of that stuff, talk sports. And in the restaurant that we went to one night was the son of the owner of Pat Steaks, which is, the original Philadelphia cheesesteak sandwich. It's the first one that, And I just went over and I said hi. I said, my God, I remember your dad, Pat Olivieri, and we were talking. So, I don't know, maybe you're right. Maybe cheesesteaks had something to do with it.
There you go. I want to know about your mental state and knowing you had to go through this transplant. I mean, I'm sure you had hope. You had your wife supporting you and everything. But did you ever stop to think, like, what if I don't make it? And, I've had a blessed life, but is it over? And
well, yeah, you're right, Terry. I remember I was sitting, it was July the 8th, and my wife Linda and I are laying in bed, and I was in bad shape. And I said, you know what, sweetheart, I really don't think I'm going to make it. We better get all the papers together. And, and she said, and my wife was a nurse for 36 years. Mm-hmm. And she said, oh, don't worry, Bobby, you're going to be all right. Things will work out, just hang in there. But she knew. I mean, she knew if I didn't get a transplant, my days were numbered. The next morning, we get a call from Jefferson Hospital, which is where I had my surgery done, and they said, excuse me, get your ass over here.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And we found a donor, and I was an O positive guy, which means, I can give to anybody, but I can only take, O positive. My donor, a young lady from Reading, Pennsylvania, 21 years old, Julia, and she was hit by a car and pronounced immediately brain dead. And I got the call from the hospital. We went to the hospital. It was like 12:30 in the afternoon. I was in the OR at 3:30, getting ready, going in to get the double transplant. And I remember being wheeled in on the gurney, and Linda was right at my side. And I said, "You know what, sweetheart? I'm going to make that cruise." We were supposed to do a cruise called Malt Shop Memories in November. And I figured, well, what the heck, I'm going in, I got a 50-50 shot. I'm either going to pass away in the OR, or I'm going to come out, and we'll see what happens from there. And thank God, it's going to be 5 years come this July that, I had the surgery, and I'm out there working again.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, I wanted to go back and kind of talk about the beginning of your career. Now, if listeners don't know, Bobby actually started out as a drummer at the age of 9, little 9-year-old Bobby Rydell. And I understand that you were one of the youngest performers to headline the Copacabana, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, Tiffany, I was 19 years old, and I was one of the first entertainers, being of that age, 19 years old, to ever work the Copa. If I can correct you, my dad loved big bands. He just loved, like Dorsey and Goodman, Tex Beneke, Artie Shaw, so on and so forth. So at 5 years old, there was a theater here in Philadelphia called the Earl.
Mm-hmm.
And my father took me to a matinee performance to see Benny Goodman. Now, I'm 5 years old. I really don't know who Benny Goodman is. I wasn't really into any kind of music at the time. I wasn't listening. So anyway, we go, and there was a guy playing drums with Benny Goodman, who happened to be a guy by the name of Gene Krupa. And I said to my father, I don't know who that guy is, Daddy, but I want to be him. I want to be that guy playing drums. And I started playing when I was, 5, 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
And to this day, I still have the instrument downstairs in my music room, and I go down, I play, put earphones on. I used to use them in my act, but I don't use them anymore. The hands I got kind of, I don't get around the drum set all that much, with any kind of velocity and speed and so on and so forth. But, I still love to play, though.
That seems to be another Italian Philly boy thing, is a lot of them play drums. I don't know what that is that has to do with where you guys are from and everything. But somebody you grew up with became something. I've heard of him, Frankie Avalon, the great teen matinee idol. Okay, I love the Beach Party films. Actually asked you. Oh, my God, yeah. Yeah, and asked you to fill in because he was missing a drummer one night.
Well, yeah, Frankie, Frankie early in his career was a trumpet player, a very fine trumpet player, and there was a place right outside of Atlantic City called Summers Point, New Jersey, and there was a club there called Bay Shores, and Frankie was in a group called Rocco and the Saints, and the drummer, a guy by the name of Chippy Brancata, we called him Chippy Peters, he got sick, and Frankie called me. And he said, Bobby, could you come in just one night, fill in? Chippy got sick, so on and so forth. I said, yeah, sure. So I went down and I sat in, and the group playing opposite us was a group called Billy Duke and the Dukes. And there was a bass player in the band by the name of Frankie Day. His real name, Francesco Cocchi.
Okay.
But he went under Frankie Day, yeah. And we got done one of the sets, and he calls me over. He says, I'd like to manage you, kid. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, talk to my father. I was like 14, 15 years old at the time. And Frankie Day became my first manager, and it was a handshake, back then. And I guess it was, 1956, early 57, something like that. And basically that's how everything started, with me and my career.
And to this very day, you guys are friends, and you and Frankie often performed together. I know you have that great tour that you did in the past, the Golden Boys.
Oh yeah, we started that, Terry, back in 1985, and it was Fabian, Frankie Avalon and myself, 3 Italian kids. We lived like no more than a half a block to a block and a half away from one another here in South Philadelphia. And the show went absolutely fantastic. And I turned to Frank. I said, gee, this is really great, man. You know, I said, but how long is this going to last? A year, 2 years tops, it'll be over. That was 1985, and there it is, 2017. We're still doing the show, and it's really a fantastic show.
What was it like for our listeners? Kind of take us back a little bit. What was it like in Philadelphia around the time that you started out? I mean, because the Philadelphia sound obviously had a huge impact on rock and roll. There was the whole American Bandstand, Dick Clark thing going on. What was it like really being there during the heartbeat of that whole thing?
Well, yeah, I think you're right, Tiffany. You know, back then, you know, I recorded for a label called Cameo, which later became Cameo Parkway, a small independent label here in Philadelphia. And like a Motown, you know, like a Motown record, you knew it was a Motown record when the needle dropped on the record. You knew immediately it was a Motown sound. And the same thing happened with me on Cameo. When the needle dropped down on the record, you knew it was a Cameo record, whether it be Dee Dee Sharp, Chubby Checker, the Dovells, the Orlons, Bobby Rydell. So, yeah, you know, we did. You know, Philadelphia did have a specific sound, much like, you know, Motown did, you know, back in the day.
How much of a catalyst was American Bandstand? Now, there was a TV series about American Bandstand, and also was kind of, in a way, copied in Hairspray. They showed a local Philly show, and everybody said, I've got to get on that show. What was it that you just wanted to be a singer, or really was it a drive to be a part of Bandstand?
Well, you know, Dick was a wonderful guy. He really was a super gentleman. And, you know, we all did, you know, not only the guys from Philly, but, my God, from every parts of the United States, you know, at one time or another did his show. And just because you happened to be from Philadelphia didn't mean you were going to get an automatic play.
Right.
I had 3 records before my first hit, and Bernie Lowe, who was the president of the company, used to take the dubs, the acetates, and play them for Dick. And Dick listened to my first 3 songs, you know, first 3 records, and he turned them all down. And then Bernie Lowe bought an acetate. This was the summer of 1959. I recorded a song called Kissin' Time. And Dick put the needle down on the acetate, on the dub. He said, that's a hit. He says, I want him on the show. And that's how everything started, because if you remember, you know, the show originated here in Philadelphia, 46th and Market Street, and that show went from 3:30 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And when Dick played it, of course, it went across, you know, from the East Coast to the West Coast. So when kids, you know, heard that, you know, Dick was playing a record, or Dick's the guest star is going to be whoever, they all tuned in to listen and watch, you know. So, I mean, it was like, you know, automatic, you know, play. And Dick, you know, he was a giant. He was really a giant. I used to classify him. In other words, Dick would say, prior to playing the record, he would say, I'd like to know if there are sales from like Detroit, L.A., you know, Chicago. In other words, get 3 men on bass. And I classified Dick as the Mike Schmidt of disc jockeys. In other words, you get 3 men on bass, and Mike Schmidt would come to the plate, and boom, you know, the grand slam, knock it over the wall. Well, that was, you know, Dick Clark was like Mike Schmidt to me.
Everybody, you know, had their radio personality of the day. I credit a lot of, and of course he passed away, Chuck Berry to Alan Freed, and your generation was Dick Clark. I mean, seriously. You know, the songs that you had, okay, they're great titles. You had 34 top 40 hits. And how did you pick what you record, and what did you think of the titles of some of them? I can imagine it with the parents, the way they were back then. They were so scared that you guys are going to send their kids to the devil, and then this Brill Cream good-looking young guy comes out and sings Wild One. They're like, oh no, you know, I mean, how did that come about, and picking titles and what you sang, and did you kind of worry about titles like Wild One?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I never picked any of my material. It was always Bernie Lowe, Cal Mann, and Dave Apple. They were the mainstream of Cameo Parkway Records, and they would pick a tune, and basically they wrote, I would say, a good 85% of all of the hits that I had with Cameo.
Mm-hmm.
So they'd write a tune, I'd rehearse it with Dave Apple, who did most of my arrangements, and we'd go into the studio and record them. I never questioned them about, what kind of material it was. I didn't like it. Whatever they put in front of me, I just went into the studio, rehearsed, and we recorded. And if you remember when Dick Clark used to have the Saturday night, the Beach Nut Gum show,
mm-hmm.
and, you would do that show, and of course that was network as well. And I was on the show, and I had my second record out, called We Got Love. And we lip-synced the record on the Saturday night show. And on the way back home in the limo on the New Jersey Turnpike, Dave Apple took out his guitar, and he always had a pipe in his mouth. And he said, when we get back home, Bobby, he said, we're going to go into the studio. This is going to be your next record. And he started playing the guitar, and he started oh, wild one. And we went back home, went into a local studio here in Philadelphia, recorded it. Boom, it became the first million seller. But to answer the question, I never questioned or I never picked, any of the material. That was always up to the heads of Cameo Records.
I've got to ask you, because there's a lot of fans of his, because we also do a lot of drive-in movie stuff here too as well, including horror films and this and that. You had somebody that paid homage to you, and I'm pretty sure you're aware of it, but the Cha-Cha song was parodied in a way and became the Ha Ha song by John Zackerly, who is kind of also from that era. I mean, are you aware of that, and what do you think of that?
John he used to have that mystery show here out in Philadelphia,
yes.
correct? Am I right?
That's him.
Yep.
Yeah. I forget the record he had.
Dinner with Drac was his. Dinner with Drac was his big.
Again?
Yeah. Dinner with Drac. Yeah. It's a tongue.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know where it came from, but I never heard the story that you just related to me. But gee, that sounds really nice. Yeah.
So
I'll have to share the song with you later, Bobby. He actually did a version of the Cha 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 called the Ha Ha Ha
with lyrics like yummy yummy.
I never knew that.
Yes.
Oh, you got to hear this.
All right. Now, part of being a teen idol, of course, is not only the singing and stuff, but also television appearances.
Yeah.
And you did a lot of acting. You got to be on a lot of shows. But all of that aside, you had Red Skelton write a role for you. You were actually Clem Cadiddlehopper's younger cousin, Zeke Cadiddlehopper. I mean, you've peaked at that point, Bobby.
The very first time that I did the Red Skelton TV show, I was in the audience and with my manager Frankie Day, and Cecil Barker, who was the producer of the show, he came over to me and he said, "I understand you do an impersonation of one of Red's characters." I said, "Yeah, I kind of do Clem Cadiddlehopper." So he said, "Well, can I hear it?" And I started going, blue doo 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 doo, yes sir, boy, yes sir, And Red was over with David Rose rehearsing a song that he was going to do on the show, and he overheard me, and he started coming back at me as Clem. He started, and then I started going back at him, blue sir, yes sir. So anyway, make a long story short, I imitated. I was one of the only guest artists on the Skelton show to ever imitate one of his characters. And you're right, Tiffany. The character he played, of course, was Clem Cadiddlehopper, and I played his cousin Zeke Cadiddlehopper, and it was precious.
Wow.
And I could never call him Red. It was always Mr. Skelton.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Skelton. And he started calling me, Mr. Rydell, Mr. Rydell. He said, "Let's stop this. I'm Red, you're Bobby." Okay, yeah.
Well,
he's a wonderful, wonderful individual.
The acting led to many roles, and of course the one that you're most known for, and I don't know how you stood within 5 feet of Anne Margaret, but Bye Birdie. Now
it was very easy. I'll tell you the truth.
I mean, she was kind of a teen idol, but yet not. I mean, she was. Wow, she was something. I gotta stop because I'm just sweating.
Well, what was it like working on that? Because I mean, not only Anne Margaret, of course, who is amazing and gorgeous and talented, but I mean, just the cast. I mean, Dick Van Dyke. You got to work with him. Janet Leigh, Maureen Stapleton.
You look at that cast: Janet Leigh, Dick Van Dyke, Paul Lynde, Maureen Stapleton, Anne Margaret, and myself. And I went out and I screen tested with Anne in front of George Sidney, who was the director of the film. And we did what we did, and they put you on film. And, of course, Mr. Sidney said, "Okay, thank you ever so much. We'll get back to you." I went back home to Philadelphia. About 2 weeks later, my manager, once again, Frankie Day, says, "You landed the part of Hugo Peabody."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Wow," And we went out to California. I guess it was about, a month, 2 months later, and started filming Bye Birdie. And Anne and I became very, very tight, really, really good friends. And matter of fact, when I wrote the book, I, was calling up a lot of people, a lot of friends that I've met, and became very, very close to over the business to write a blurb in the book. And I called Anne, and I sent Anne the book. And she read the book, and she said, "Bobby," she said, "I didn't know what all of the stuff that you went through. God bless you.
Wow.
You have my cell. Please give me a call." So this is maybe about 4 or 5 months, whatever, not very long ago. So I called her, and I was in Florida, and I was at the Orlando airport, ready to come back home to Philadelphia. And I said, "Anne," I said, "thank you ever so much for writing the blurb in the book." I said, "You're such a sweetheart." And I said, "You know what, Anne? Now that I, stop and think about it, back in 1963, I was 20 and you were 21. I said, my God, why the hell didn't we get married?" She started laughing, but she's so sweet and so very dear and just a very, very, very warm-hearted and dear friend.
Yes. Now, one of the projects I wanted to ask you about, which I'm not sure you get asked a lot about, and I actually wasn't aware of this until just recently, but back in 1999, they did a TV movie about Alan Freed. And Judd Nelson played Alan Freed, and you were in that. Now, when you go into something like that, do you worry about if they're going to get it right, how accurate they're going to be? I mean, what was it like walking onto a set with a bunch of people that obviously probably weren't there, and they're trying to retell a story?
I think they really did their homework on that when we shot the Alan Freed movie, and we shot it in Toronto, Canada. And not only myself, but Fabian was also in it, and we played I think we played fathers, and we were arguing about the kind of music that Alan was playing, which relates to the stories you said a little bit earlier. Was he going to record that devil music and so on and so forth? But it was it was a little bit of a role, nothing really that heavy, it wasn't a major part of the TV special. But it was a nice piece of business, and I think they did a hell of a job on it. They got it right.
Well, you turn around, you think about it. I've thought about this often, being a radio guy. There's not too many legendary radio jocks or announcers or personalities you can think of. It's iconic. That goes down in history as a star themselves. Maybe 5 on one hand. You can mention. And Alan Freed was such a great legend. I mean, talk about a tribute. I mean,
really, Terry. I mean, he was a giant. I mean, one of my very first rock and roll shows in New York City was at the New York Paramount, and Alan Freed was, the host, the MC of the show.
Right.
And I think I had maybe one or two records at the time, and I was just 30th, on the bill, and I only did 2 songs because they had people like the Isley Brothers and Jackie Wilson and Sam Cooke, and the Drifters, I'm thinking to myself, what the hell am I doing here next to all of these great people, But you're right. I mean, Alan Freed, he was a giant. He was a giant jockey back then. It was a pleasure to know him and to be able to work for him.
If it wasn't for Alan Freed, I mean, I think he broke the barrier for black artists. I mean, because they were being played on black stations because of him. They wound up on all stations. Black and white and mixed and everything. I mean, he really broke the barrier.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we used to do something like 5, 6, 7 shows a day. At the New York Paramount, they would start at 10 in the morning and go till 12 o'clock at night. And the earlier shows, all of the teenager girls, they'd come in and scream and holler, when you're on stage, and it made you feel so wonderful. And then when you got to the late shows, like the 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock shows, a lot of the guys came to the shows, and I'm on stage doing a couple of things, and all you hear from the audience is boo, boo, get off, you fruit, because they wanted to see the Isley Brothers and Jackie Wilson and Sam Cooke. But it's a learning experience, I guess.
You talked about playing a role where you were like an older father and all these kids and this and that and everything. When you think about how things were back then and how they are now, I want to know what it's like when you and Frankie Avalon and Fabian and everything get together. What do you talk about? Do you talk about how crazy it was, how wild it was? Like, man, I had a different girlfriend every night, and oh man, I couldn't do that now. I mean, what do you talk about?
Well, now we talk about, I went to the bathroom and I had such a great movement. I got a pain over here that you wouldn't believe. You think you got a pain? Listen to what I got. Years ago we used to talk about, oh my God, all of the girls that used to come and scream and holler, and we dated different girls throughout our career. Now we talk about personal things.
Well, you definitely.
I forget the. Do they still, did Bobby, Frankie, do they still, throw their bras and panties up on stage? No, we say no anymore. It depends. That's all we see that comes up on stage. But Frankie has a great line towards the end of the show. He said, "Look at the three of us. We're 3 guys, born and raised, a couple of blocks away from one another, and we used to hang out on street corners together in South Philadelphia. And now here we are hanging out on stage together." It's a great line, and it's really the truth, because, like I said, Fabian was a half a block away from me on 11th Street, and Frankie was on 9th Street, 2 blocks away from me. And, we have so much fun with the show, and the people see that. They say, we're having such a great time, and it relates. It just, it generates from our perspective out to the audience, and they just relive, what a great time it was, back then in the late 50s and the early 60s. Unfortunately, that's all gone. It will never come back again. But what great memories they were. And that's what the show does. It brings back a lot of those wonderful memories. And
it's good to know Frankie, because maybe he gives you a discount. He has that zero pain liniment stuff. We used to tell him, I said, you know what, Frank, you're not in show business anymore. You're a doctor. You want to walk around with a white thing with Dr. Avalon, So I had this knee pain. So I said, Frank, I got this terrible knee pain. He says, I'll send you my zero pain. I said, oh, okay, that'd be wonderful. I call him Cheech, which is Frank in Italian. Okay.
So he sends me the stuff. I put it on my knee, and I called him. I said, Frank, it's not working. The zero pain's not working, my friend. He said, you're putting it on wrong. I said, well, how can I put it on wrong? I put my fingers in the thing, and I rub the stuff on my knee. It ain't working. You're doing it wrong.
Now, what was it? Because we've actually interviewed, and I'm not trying to say that Cameo was anything like this, but I know that the record industry and labels were a little bit different back then. We've actually interviewed Tommy James from Tommy James and the Shondells in the past. Who was with
yeah, I'll be seeing Tommy. I think this coming June.
Oh, he's a great guy.
I've known Tommy for quite a few years. Of course, over the years we kind of like lost touch with one another. But he's doing this show at a place called the PNC Center, right out of upstate, off of the Garden State Parkway. So it'll be great. I know where you're going with the book, with Tommy's book.
Yes, yeah, and he often would talk to us about Roulette Records, which he was with, and how that was very much run by, dare I say, some mafia.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We call them the noses.
Right. So for you, I mean, what was it
those
like?
Guys, all of those guys. Those guys.
Those
I'm
guys.
talking about those guys.
What was it like working with Cameo Parkway? Because I believe you were the first artist to release an entire album with them. And was it, how was it working with that label? And how did they feel when you left them to go to Capitol?
I mean, it wasn't like Roulette, right?
Oh, no. I was one of the fortunate guys. I mean, I would always get, the royalties on the records that I sold. Now, maybe, I didn't get the true exact count, like on a million sellers. Say we sold like 1,800,000. I got paid on, on the million sellers. So they were always very, very good to me, and they were the three guys, Bernie Lowe, Cal Mann, and Dave Apple, were wonderful people to work for. And then they could see, the writing on the wall where, the label started to go down and the hits weren't coming out anymore. And we left, on, very, very, good terms. And I left Cameo and I signed with Capitol. And, I was with Capitol 2-3 years, and nothing really ever happened, with Capitol. And basically my recording career more or less ended, back in 1964. But from 59 to 64, they were, great years, with Cameo. So I really can't complain. They were absolutely wonderful, to me.
And how do you feel about when people come, and maybe you don't even know about it, maybe they don't ask you, I don't know, but when people do covers of your songs, because two of the most interesting people that I heard that George Clinton and Kiss has covered Kissin' Time.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they covered. It's a totally different version than my original, song. But I was, I was never into, any of those groups back then. But to be, recognized, by those guys and to record a song that was a hit for me, it was an honor, And matter of fact, people today, when I did the book signing, they said to me, "Bobby, did you ever hear Kiss's version of Kissin' Time?" I said, yeah, man, sure.
Boy, that's something that had to be quite surprising to you and Frankie Avalon. I mean, you guys were very simple and straightforward, and then you look at George Clinton and you look at Kiss, and they're a little flamboyant. Of course, you guys had Screamin' Jay Hawkins, but did you guys think that these guys were nuts or something when it came out?
Well, it worked, didn't it? It certainly worked for Kiss,
and
God bless them. That's wonderful. Everybody has their own little thing to do, and you're right. I mean, back then, we were, the cute guys, we were the teenage idols, the ones that mothers, fell in love with, not only their children, but their moms. I remember, years ago, I think I must have weighed, I guess maybe 90 pounds tops, and people would come, the moms and dads would take their kids to see, and like after a show they said, "Would you like to come over to the house for dinner? It looks like you need some kind of some food inside you," because everybody wanted to feed me, because I was so skinny,
Yeah.
And back in 1964, I went into basic training at Fort Dix, New Jersey. I was like 95 pounds back then. right? Basic training, and things didn't fit. I mean, underwear and fatigues. I look like a sad sack, for crying out loud. But it's amazing. Speaking about the service, I went in 95 pounds. I came out 125, and I felt like I could beat up anybody. Put Muhammad Ali in front of me, I'll kick him out, I'll punch him out.
It's amazing considering what you guys ate, living where you did, and being Italian. Because Sam Arkoff of American International Pictures told me Frankie Avalon couldn't lift a surfboard, and now you're telling me you were skinny. I don't know. You guys didn't get fat or something. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, Frankie, compared to me, Frankie was a heavyweight back then. I was 95. He was 101. Whatever. Yeah.
Looking back in your long career, as we get to the end here, you had so many tributes and so many gold records and all the awards and everything you've won. What's it like when you're watching TV and you see a movie called Grease and it's Rydell High, and you look at a movie called The Parent Trap with Haley Mills and there's your poster on the wall next to Elvis? I mean, is that something that strikes you emotionally? Do you laugh about it, or how does it affect you?
When Grease first came out, and I went to see the movie, of course, because Frankie was in it. Basically,
right.
That's basically why I went to see the movie, because Frank, was Teen Angel, where he did Beauty School Dropout, and then all of a sudden the kids are going to Rydell High. I said, wow. That's absolutely fantastic, and everybody said, why do you think they named the high school after you? I said, I don't know. Could have been Fabian High, could have been Presley High, could have been Anchor High, Everly High, but they named it after me. And, kids who don't know me, like young kids, they say, sweetheart, this is Bobby Rydell. Oh, you're the guy that had the high school in Greece. That's how they know me. A lot of the young kids, because of the high school in Greece, Rydell High.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to talk about, before we wrap things up here, if our listeners want to have a chance to meet Bobby, they actually can do so. There's quite a few book signings coming up. I believe I see quite a few on the East Coast. Do you ever get out to the West Coast to do book signings, Bobby?
We're trying to put something together out on the West Coast to do some book signings, so hopefully in the very near future, we'll be out on the West Coast, either doing, libraries or Barnes and Noble, or just, personal appearances, with the book as well.
Right.
So hopefully in the very near future, we'll be out on the West Coast, with the book and doing some signings.
In the meantime, if you are on the East Coast, upcoming signings, you can go to Barnes & Noble in Exton, Pennsylvania on March 25th. Bobby's going to be there from 1 to 3. Also coming up on March 30th, you can meet Bobby in Berlin, New Jersey at the Vault at Victor Records from 7 to 9 p.m. And then, of course, there's a lot more dates coming up in April, May, and June, which you can get all the information by going over to BobbyRydell.com. And then also, Bobby, you have some tour dates coming up later this year, and I believe the cruise is going to happen again this year, too, right?
You mean the Malt Shop Memories?
Yes.
Yeah, years ago I did an infomercial for Time Life, and it was called Malt Shop Memories. And it became one of Time Life's top 5 bestsellers. It was really a big seller for Time Life, which led to a cruise. And the first time we did the cruise, it was only a 4-day cruise, and it went over tremendously well. And now we're on a bigger liner, and I've been doing it. This is about my 4th year now. And I'll be going on in November the 5th, and it's myself and Brenda Lee, who I haven't seen for ages, and a dear friend, Dion's going to be on it. Nice. And they're great. They're really great cruises. I mean, the kids come on with poodle skirts, and it's like record hops and this and that, the other thing. It's really, really wonderful. And the people who are on the cruise love it so much that halfway through the cruise, they sign up for the next one, because they get a chance to really, to mingle with the artists, whether it be a Q&A, a cooking demonstration, whatever it may be, so the fans get the opportunity to really hang around with the artists that are on the show. So I'm looking forward to it. And I just remembered something, that we're trying to work out a thing at the Grove in Los Angeles do a concert and associated also with the book signing as well.
That would be awesome.
Oh, that's a perfect opportunity.
I'm looking forward to that. And because it looks like a great, I've never been there. It looks like a great venue. So hopefully that'll come off pretty soon. Well,
the book is Bobby Rydell, Teen Idol on the Rocks, and I'm glad to find out that you got off those rocks, because you sound really, really good. And it thrills me to know you still embrace the word teen idol, because we get so many on there like, I wanted to do Led Zeppelin. I was tired of doing all that kind of stuff. And you're a great man. You're a great man.
Once again, we ask our listeners, check out the book. You can get all the information about where to get the book, and book signings, upcoming performances of Golden Boys, and of course the Malt Shop Memories cruises by going over to Bobby's website at bobbyrydell.com. Bobby, I want to thank you so much for spending some time with us. I know it's late over there on the East Coast, so we'll let you go.
It's only 10:15. My God, it's early. Yeah. I'm watching March Madness as we speak right now.
There you go. Maybe
unfortunately, where my son went to Villanova, and of course last year they were champions, and now they got beat by Wisconsin today.
No.
So we're out of the tournament. But it's always great to watch March Madness. I love it.
There you go. Maybe some night on Halloween you'll be so inclined and put on some makeup and stand up there with Kiss, because that would be interesting.
That's a pretty good idea, Terry. I like that idea.
Fantastic. Something to look forward to.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us, Bobby. It's been an honor to chat with you tonight.
It was a pleasure, Tiffany. Terry, thank you ever so much.
Sure. Absolutely. Have a great rest of your weekend.
And you guys do the same.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.